Late night baseball. I don't know how else to lead off. What a night this is going to be still. We're still not even, we're halfway through the night. Another game. We got a game later this evening. It's 11:15 p.m. Central Time. The two teams who are playing, uh, they'll start about midnight. I don't know. I cannot believe that I'm saying that. Those teams will start about midnight. We'll finish. Jared. First of all, I got Jared Barger on the phone, our baseball guru. Jared, you know baseball. Listen, those games will start. Game will start at midnight. What? Finish at 4.
Well, it's possible. Three at the earliest.
3 at the earliest. Isn't that ridiculous? So Iowa, Michigan. This game actually moved at a pretty good rate of speed. The Hawks with solid start again from in this case, Bauman. Cam Bauman, I thought, played really well. We can talk about him and his performance, but Iowa just seems to take a few innings to really get those hitters going. But once again, very similar to the blueprint that they followed earlier in the day. They get the bats rolling in the 5th inning and built a solid lead, and Michigan just wasn't able to overcome it.
No, they weren't. I really liked how they go up 3-0, and then Michigan's able to answer back, and then looks like they tack on 4 more right there. Then in the 6th, I believe. So yeah, they were able to go ahead and answer right back after Michigan answers back.
And I'll just say this, and I know I texted you during the game about this call, but the interference called on Keaton Anthony I thought was a bad call in the very first inning. It was a weird first inning because Iowa ends up getting to, with I believe it was, I want to make sure I'm not quoting this incorrectly. So Seegers gets to first, and then tries to take second, and the throw is a tad late, and they call an interference on the batter. It was Keaton Anthony, and I'd love to be able to look back at this play because to me it was a bad call. And then Bauman kind of has a weird start. He ends up hitting 3 batters in the first inning, and it just felt like, I know the commentators were talking about how Bauman I don't believe he'd lasted longer than 3 innings in a game this year. He ends up going, I believe, 5 and 2/3, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look back at the box score here. But it was a really weird first inning, and Bauman had a breaking ball get away from him that nearly hit the Michigan batter in the head. I thought there was a bad check swing call, and then he hit a guy in the elbow. So again, 3 total batters hit by Bauman, but he escaped the inning with the bases loaded. And I thought that really just established things. This was a slow start for a guy who's had an up and down career, Jared. But how important is it for a guy who's experienced? He's been here in the Big Ten tournament before. Even when you have that slow start and things start to get a little bit unsteady, to be able to recover, how much does that carry a guy's confidence?
Well, yeah, that's huge. I mean, you want to have easy, quick innings, but when you're not able to, and when you get the runners on base, and that's huge to be able to make those pitches and not let it get away from you and not let the frustration take over. So he did a really nice job of that.
And I see Steven asked the question, when I get to this question, who's on the bump for tomorrow? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. And we talked about that earlier. And if they've announced it, I'm just not aware of it. What I will say is this. I thought Iowa's pitching group as a whole today just threw the ball really well. I thought, let me pull up the final numbers here. Again, we talked about Bauman. Let me see if I can pull up.
Well, while you look for that, I'll say,
sure.
As far as tomorrow goes, I think it's going to come down to, they won't be able to decide till tomorrow, and it's just going to be who's feeling fresh then, because they've used a lot of arms. They've had a lot of innings to cover today, and hopefully they'll have 18 more innings tomorrow to play. So it's just going to come down to who's feeling fresh at the beginning of the day and who they decide to go with.
Yeah, and it was Butel. And Butel, I thought, really, it feels like he pitched longer than 1 inning. I mean, he pitched an inning and a third. But I tell you, He's a tough pitcher to hit off of. He's got the kind of the sidearmed. Again, you're more of a pitching guy than I am, Jared, but that's a hard pitch to hit when you see him, the lefty coming at that angle. And I thought he was done dirty by the officials a few times. I don't know that the officials here are calling his balls very well, if that makes sense. What from your knowledge and what you've seen, maybe even at the major league level, do you see officials struggle to be able to kind of adjust to pitchers who are such a contrasting style?
There can be certain locations where the angle that the pitcher throws at it might not get a certain call, but I don't really think that that's going to make too much of a difference. And then as far as Major League goes, of course, those umpires are going to be a little more experienced and they're going to have a little bit better feel for their strike zone. So as far as the college game, some of those can go either way at times, but I don't think it makes a huge difference, although there definitely can be certain locations where that might play in.
And I thought Schultz came in and those 2 innings pitch, boy, he really shut the door on any glimmer of hope for Michigan. How did you think Schultz closed the game?
Oh, Schultz, he was fantastic. I mean, the 4 strikeouts, he's got a beautiful curveball, a nice changeup. He was fantastic.
And so Iowa with the win for Bauman, and now you move to what I would guess will be an early game. We don't know because, and I know when we talked before, Jared, and I'm going to pop up this bracket. So I know you can't see this because you're over the phone, but I pop this bracket up for people before we let you go, Jared, because I do want to talk just about the schedule and how things are looking moving forward. So because Iowa lost to Penn State, and I know we kind of discussed this, but this is a confusing looking draw if you're not familiar with the setup. So the way this works, of course, Iowa losing to Penn State, that means they cannot lose again. It's a double elimination tournament. Michigan had not lost before tonight. So Iowa hands Michigan its first loss of the week. Tomorrow will be a rematch. So Iowa will have to beat Michigan again. The winner of that game will play in the Big Ten championship game. So here's the other part of this. You've got Iowa, Michigan. We know they'll play. The game tomorrow will be, it's win or go home for both teams. The winner of that game will play the winner of what we would guess to be Rutgers, Indiana, if Indiana can win tonight. So Indiana's in the same situation. Indiana has to win 2. Rutgers has not lost a game in this tournament. So, again, Indiana would have to win 2 games, including the game tonight, which has not even started yet. We anticipate it'll start around midnight, which means it will probably finish around 4 in the morning. But my point, Jared, being if you have to play 3 games tomorrow on that field, you're looking at potentially having to start Iowa early in the morning. And I say early, I mean, they don't have the 4-game lineup, but if you're starting probably or 10 or 11, and then, you're going to have to fit in the Rutgers Indiana game because I wouldn't think you'd want the Big Ten championship game to stretch, midnight, 1 a.m. I wouldn't think that'd be preferable from the Big Ten and the Big Ten network. But how important is it for Iowa to get rest tonight? They've thrown a lot of pitches, played a lot of baseball, and frankly, played a lot of good baseball in a short period of time.
Yes, they have. And I would imagine that they would want to get that championship game underway by 7 at the latest. So you're right. It will be a quick turnaround. They'll probably be playing again about 12 hours from now. So yeah, they need to get their rest. But at the same time, there's really not a whole lot of that's going to go on. They know what they're in store for. They know they knew what they had to do, especially once they lost that first game. They knew it was going to be a lot of games in not so many days, but they just need to keep it going. And they're going to be tired, of course, once this is all said and done, but they just need to keep their heads down and keep it going.
So you're on your way to Ames right now, and right, we're going down to Omaha, correct?
That'd be nice.
Okay, so Cameron Fagan says in the chat, and I don't know where he's getting this. I'm assuming that this is just, I haven't seen this, but he said it's going to either be 9 a.m. or 1 p.m. So again, it'll depend on that Indiana game, but apparently they will start at 9 a.m. So I think the Big Ten Network is probably trying to avoid any game going past 11, 12 o'clock tomorrow night, which makes sense because that's going to be the title game, and it's winner take all. So
Yeah.
If you're an Iowa fan, you don't want an early game. I think, there's two ways of looking at this, and I know this is probably not what people don't want to talk about this, but there's two ways of looking at this, Jared. Would you rather Indiana, Rutgers, one of those teams have to play a second game tomorrow? I think you probably would, but if they don't have to, then you get longer rest for that first game, if that makes sense. What would you prefer as a player? Would you rather play the early slot with less rest, but it forces the other two teams that are in contention for the title to play an extra game, or would you rather have the extra rest?
I don't really know how much those couple hours of rest they might get would make a difference. So I'd rather have the team that you're playing in the championship have also played that day.
I agree.
Think that would level the playing field a lot more.
And that, of course, this whole situation begs the question whether or not Iowa is now a lock for the tournament. I don't know that we can go so far so as to say they're a lock, Stephen. And I do think they're in. If you had to put a gun to my head, I think they're in. Jared, I think you'd probably agree with that. Again, they've beaten a Penn State team that was playing really well, but a Michigan team that was red hot in this tournament and beat them soundly. Is it enough for you to say that they deserve a spot in the field of 68 or field of 64? I don't know how many are in the baseball tournament.
Well, you sure would think. I mean, I would say yes. I'm biased, of course. So let's just win tomorrow twice and won't have to worry about it. But I'd say yes.
Okay. Looking through these chats, making sure I'm not missing anything here. James, good to see you here as well, sir. I want to let Jared go. I know he's been on the phone here for a few minutes and you are traveling back to your home base. Anything else that stood out as far as pitching is concerned or hitting? I thought Keaton Anthony, again, I mentioned his struggle early, and I think part of it is he was done a little bit unfairly at least my opinion is he was done unfairly on the interference call. And then had a night and really at the top of the fifth, he got things going with a nice at bat to send Moss home to get on the board. I thought the potential, and I don't know what the call is officially, Jared, and maybe you missed. I know you missed part of the game, but the interference call at home plate, a little bit strange. And again, I guess I don't know the rule well enough, and maybe somebody can call in after Jared, you get off the phone, or maybe you can look back at that replay and let us know. But can you block home plate with your foot? Because the base runner was the Iowa base runner was sliding in, and boy, it looks like a dangerous play when you have another foot right blocking the plate. I know you can block the plate with your body, but you have to. My understanding is you have to provide a lane for that base runner to slide into home plate, correct?
Yeah, you do have to. You can block it to an extent, but you still have to give them that opportunity. And I would have to see the play. I would.
I'm assuming you missed that one then.
I did, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm anxious to see if you get off the phone, maybe let us know in the chat if you can find I don't know if you'll be able to find the replay. I thought it was a bad call, and again, I thought there were some questionable calls. They did go to replay and look at that one, but again, it didn't matter. Iowa fighting through some, I thought, questionable officiating in this game, making it 7-3 and closing things out late. And again, pitching has been strong. You look at Iowa's numbers. Let me go ahead and pull up their. I could probably recite it from memory. Of course, I know they held Purdue to just 5 runs on Friday. Let me go ahead and pull up their numbers this week because, of course, this isn't a direct indication, but it's a pretty good indication of how well this team's been pitching. So they give up 5 runs against Penn State in a losing effort, give up 4 against Purdue, and then give up 3 against Penn State earlier today, and then giving up just 3 today to a red-hot Michigan team that had been scoring 10-plus this week. Your thoughts on pitching and anything else, Jared, that you saw that stood out?
Well, that's consistency. I mean, anytime, especially in college baseball, anytime you're giving up 3 or 4 runs, you're going to have a chance to win, especially with that offense that they have. So, yeah, they like you said, they've been very consistent so far throughout this tournament. They haven't really had any big innings get away from them or anything like that. For the most part, they've kept their composure and been able to get out of those tough situations while limiting the damage. So really nothing else in particular. I didn't get to watch most of this one, but I just think they're obviously pitching quite well as a staff collectively, and they're going to need to keep that going. And it's going to be all hands on deck tomorrow.
Jared, appreciate you taking the time. I know you were traveling today and out of town, so I know you were able to watch a decent amount there at the end. Appreciate you providing the expertise, and I know you dove into the box score as soon as you could. So we'll hope to be able to chat with you again tomorrow, and if Iowa can win, selfishly, I'm hoping due to scheduling conflict in the morning, I'm hoping they play the 1 a.m. game or the 1 p.m. game. But I understand your perspective as to why it may be better for this team to play the 9 a.m. game, because then that means Rutgers, Indiana has to play in the afternoon. But regardless, we'll be here for postgame. Appreciate talking again this evening, Jared, and we'll hopefully talk to you tomorrow.
Yep, we'll talk to you tomorrow twice.
Take care. Appreciate the call. Jared Barger here with us on a Saturday night, late Saturday night. And this has been fun. I've enjoyed doing this, folks. Appreciate everybody being here. Listen, anybody who listens to this show knows I think I'm fairly well-versed in college football, college basketball. I'm not nearly as well-rounded in college baseball, and I'm really not well-rounded in college wrestling. But try to provide coverage to people who have requested it, and I've enjoyed doing this. This is the most baseball I've watched in a long time. I saw somebody, a big Iowa fan, comment that on social media. Iowa, this is a fun team to watch. Somehow we're getting a call, and I didn't even know the line was open because I don't have the number up here, but I'm guessing I know who it is. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hello, Corey. It's the real MVP.
All right, your real MVP. What you got, buddy boy?
I think this was a great coached game by Iowa. There were some situations early on in the first inning and the eighth inning where it looked like Iowa was headed for disaster, but they didn't panic.
Yeah. No, I thought, like I said, the decision to bring Schultz in, he's a starting pitcher, and he really exceptional closing effort from Schultz. That's all I have to say. I thought it was a tremendous and just really good coaching from Rick Keller.
And what it reminded me of was the Dodgers did that with Clayton Kershaw a few years ago. And it was like, it worked out perfectly. So maybe in the back of their playbook, they had this scenario written down like, hey, the Dodgers did it, was successful.
Yeah.
So why not we try it?
And I think the whole idea here is just things are going to change when you're looking at a tournament setting and you're playing 2 games in a day and you're potentially playing 4 games in 2 days. Things are going to change. I thought it was a great decision. And for a guy to come in cold like that, I know he's not totally cold. I know he's warming up in the bullpen, but I guess what I'm saying is, that's got to be a different animal. I've never been a pitcher in my life, but I thought it was an impressive effort. And I'm curious, You're a Kentucky fan. Is Kentucky playing right now? Are they done, or what's going on?
We are playing. We beat LSU 7-2. We are currently tied against the number 1 team in the country at the top of the 8th. 2-2. There is a runner on first with no outs.
Okay,
and this is why in the chat.
Listen. I got to ask you a question then. Sorry to interrupt you. I got to ask you a question. Were you listening to Mark Rogers' call-in show earlier?
I wasn't listening. I called in.
You are a man of. I don't know how you find the time, my brother.
Well, it's the weekend, Corey.
It's the weekend. That's true.
But the thing I would say is I don't think I was currently in the tournament, and it's not because I was winning against bad teams or anything. It's bubble teams are still in the tournament and still beating really good teams. Like UTSA today, they dominated Southern Miss. Now, in most sports, we would say Southern Miss, who cares about them, but they're 11 in the country.
Is it fair to say that perhaps the Big Ten is just a bit underrated? Like, listen, I know that people get tired of the Big Ten in football and basketball, and Big Ten fans calling it the best conference in the country. I think we know the Big Ten is probably not the best the conference in the country in football. It's certainly had that claim in basketball, and if it's not number 1 in football, it's I think a surefire number 2. But I guess my point is I think we really undervalue the Big Ten in baseball. Look what Indiana has done. Indiana has had a really nice tournament. Let me pull up their results.
But they're under 500. So
okay, that's not my point. I'm not saying they should be in, but I'm saying they've knocked off Maryland earlier today, and Maryland is perceived to be possibly a top 10. I don't know where they rank. Are they in the top 10 right now in the country?
Yeah, they were 8.
Yeah, so
they'll still host a regional.
I guess my point is, Indiana's under 500, and I know anybody can win on any given day. But I just am impressed by what Indiana has done, and certainly what Iowa and Michigan have done this week.
Oh yeah, I'm impressed by all the teams. Anytime you get this far in a tournament, it's very impressive. Especially, it shows you've got great coaching, great depth, and a team effort.
And I don't think, for the record, I don't think Illinois should be in. I know people talking about Illinois on day one of this tournament. To me, they have not done enough, and just a disappointing result. They're kind of in a similar position. RPI not even close to where Iowa's was. I don't believe. I don't have that number in front of me, but I don't think they should be in. But I do think that Iowa should be able to get in. I think with 3 teams in the Big Ten is not asking for that much. Even if Iowa loses tomorrow, and I know you may not agree with this, Drew MVP, but if Iowa loses tomorrow morning, and I'm no bracketologist, I still think they should be in. And I think part of the reason why is what they've done this week. From a pitching standpoint, they've been, their Big Ten pitcher of the year was hurt, banged up. They find a way to just give up 5 runs in a tough day against Penn State. I don't know what happened, if that was a kind of a lingering effect from all those runs scored against Indiana the week prior. Just a slow start to be able to recover, win 2 games in 2 days today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I think they're in, but I'm of course biased.
Well, Corey, listen, I agree with all that. I agree with your sentiment, but my team is also on the outside looking at currently, based on the metrics. We've beaten the number 1 team 2 out of 3. We just beat LSU, who's ranked. We beat Auburn, who's ranked. We beat Vanderbilt, who's ranked. We beat Georgia, who's ranked. We beat TCU, who I believe is the Big 12 champions. And we're still on the outside looking.
Baseball is weird. But again, Kentucky, what's Kentucky's overall record right now?
33-25, something like that.
Okay. And Iowa's, let me pull up Iowa's. They're looking at 35-18. So, but again, shows you the difference between perception and I get it. I mean, it's the playing field we're dealing with, and for reason, I don't know if great reason, but reason, but difference in conference perception.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Difference in conference perception, and it's a committee who's going to be determining these things. And if the committee says who you beat versus who you lost to, it depends how the committee views their selection process.
And I think part of it too, the tough thing for Iowa is they had some early losses that are going to come back to bite them. They lose to Corpus Christi, they lose to Wichita State, both 1-run differences. They lose to Loras College. I mean, just some losses there early, and then of course losing the SEC matchup against Texas A&M. Actually lost to Wichita State twice. And UC Irvine's going to be a hard one. They did steal one from Irvine, which is great, but you wish that they could have gotten off to a hotter start, because they've been rolling. I think right now to anybody that wants to argue, I would, and I know you can't prove this, and we're looking at resume. I get that, and that's what we should be looking at. But I would take Iowa against probably anybody between maybe 30 and 64. I think Iowa right now is fringe top 25, but they're not. That doesn't mean they're going to get in, because the resume may not say that. And the good news is, if you win out, I think you're in. You're in at that point. Right. So they have a pathway to ensure it.
I think it's almost at the point where Iowa must win. I was hearing people on the SEC Now network, and they were saying Kentucky's in a must-win. They have to win their entire conference. I mean, my gosh, it's just brutal. And there's so many teams and so many very few spots, and it's getting down to the nitty-gritty. But Corey, I don't want you to be disappointed on selection day if your team doesn't show up.
Well, I won't be any more disappointed than I have in past years. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a little bit more invested in this team this year. I like this group. I think this group is unique. And I don't know. I don't want to say this is a team that's going to make a run to a Sweet 16, but I do think it's a team that has something special from a pitching and a hitting standpoint. If they can, right now they're combining the two together as of these last couple games. today was awesome. I mean, today was just pretty much dominance. And that's what I'm saying. They could come out and win 2 games tomorrow.
They could. They could very easily do it. Now, let me ask you this. Out of Indiana or Rutgers, which one would you rather face?
I would rather face Indiana because they played a lot more baseball.
It's fair.
You know, I mean, they played 11? They played 11 innings today, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would rather face Indiana. But again, Indiana's had a great tournament, and Rutgers hasn't lost. I'm not saying Rutgers is a pushover. Rutgers is firmly in the tournament. So I think Iowa's playing with a bit more to gain. Indiana's not in, obviously, but I think I'd rather play Indiana. And again, I think the bigger question is what I asked Jared before you called in is: would you rather get extra rest to get those 4 extra hours of rest, or would you rather have the other team have to play a second game? And I think Jared hit the nail on the head. You'd rather that other team play another game, both of those teams, whoever ends up getting to the championship in Rutgers or Indiana.
Well, that's all I got for you, Corey. The final thing I'll say is shout out to UCLA and Oregon State. Final of that score of that game was 25-22.
Okay, but hold on a second. What's the current score? Because they play again. They played again, correct?
Yeah, so let me turn it on the Pac-12 network.
We're relying on Drill MVP for our score update. That is wild. It was about a 6-hour game, correct? And how many hits? Like 53 hits?
I don't know. I just saw it was 25-22, and it's like, geez Louise, that's unbelievable.
It was a 6-hour game.
It is currently 6-2. Oregon State, bottom of the 5th. And
Gosh. So they're literally going to play 10 hours of baseball today.
Possibly 11 or 12.
Gosh. That's just
imagine
insane.
playing having 6 runs and not even being like, that's 15 runs less than what we scored the first game.
Yeah.
That's insane. But good luck to your Iowa Hawkeyes tomorrow. I hope they win for your sake, Corey, and all of Iowa Hawkeye Nation.
Appreciate it, sir. Appreciate the call. Have a great night.
Yeah, no problem.
Real MVP calling us. And the line is open. I'm going to open it for anybody else who wants to call in before we head out. I'm going to post this podcast tonight. I'm going to dedicate that. I'm promising you that I'm going to post this. So if you're not following the podcast anymore, or if you're not following the podcast yet, I should say, please go ahead and do that. You can find From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Amazon, etc. And let me see if I can find the correct banner. I'll throw it up there on the bottom and throw the call line, perhaps. Let's throw the call line up here so everybody can see it. 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. Talking Iowa's 7-3 victory over previously unbeaten, at least during this tournament, Michigan. Maybe the hottest team besides Rutgers in this tournament. Again, the only 2 teams that hadn't lost, and now Rutgers is the only team that has not lost, and so that's why you play double elimination. Iowa falling on day 1 against Purdue after basically sitting for an entire day waiting for the rain to stop on Wednesday. They get back out there Thursday, lose, take care of business against Purdue, and then 2 wins today against Penn State and Michigan, and the bats are working. The pitching has not slowed down. Pitching has been great all tournament, and a nice win for Bauman tonight. Okay, let me get back to the comments, see if I missed anybody. Good to see Hawkeye Howard. Good to see you here, sir. James, Stephen Kohler, Cameron, Micah, Jordan. Appreciate all you being here. Drill MVP. And Drill MVP has a question after he just got off the line. I'll take the question nonetheless. He says, do you think there will be any changes? Maybe I can get the question. Maybe I can't. Why am I not being able to get the question? Let's try it again. There we go. Do you think there will be any changes from game 1 to game 2? Great question. I think Michigan, listen, I'm not saying Michigan threw in the towel. There was a period of time, maybe late in that 7th inning, and you know how things snowball, and Iowa's good at making things snowball. They kind of nickel and dime you to death at times from an offensive standpoint. But I did feel there was a point late in the 7th inning where it felt like Michigan kind of, the body language sunk, and you wonder if they started thinking, look, let's just get to Sunday. We're good. Iowa's played a lot of baseball. We have not, although Michigan had some late night games. That's an advantage we've talked about. Michigan has had some late night games. You wonder if perhaps that carryover effect from late in the 7th into the 8th. I give Michigan credit. They did not throw in the towel, but there was a point in that 7th inning where their body language changed because they knew that, listen, if we don't come back tonight, we got tomorrow. And we just have to win one to get to the championship game because they hadn't lost up until this point. Appreciate this, Hawkeye Howard. Remember to smash the like button here. Appreciate all the support from everybody. And I'm going to show you one last time before we get off. Here is the bracket. And a reminder, now it's a lot easier to explain now that we're down to the nitty gritty. But this is where we stand as of right now. And I shouldn't say as of right now because the Iowa result has not been tabulated on here. But because Iowa won this, we now move down here. So I hope you can see my cursor. So, of course, this is Iowa here. They won Game 9 earlier today against Penn State. So now because they won this, they're down here. Had Michigan won, Michigan would have moved here, which means they would have been in the championship game. They would have played whoever would have come out of this section, which was Rutgers, and, of course, Indiana moved up there. So Iowa now plays Michigan. Basically, these teams just rematch tomorrow. Reportedly, either at 9 or 1, depending on the result of this Indiana-Rutgers game, which is just now getting underway, I believe, on BTN or getting close to being underway. So the winner of this game tomorrow, the early game tomorrow, Iowa-Michigan, will go to the Big Ten Tournament Championship game. And then up here, you've got Indiana-Rutgers. Rutgers has not lost, so Indiana has to beat them twice. Exact same position that Iowa was in against Michigan. If Indiana wins tonight, they played 11 innings earlier today against Maryland and won, who, by the way, was number one seed in this tournament. Disappointing result, but disappointing tournament for Maryland. Let me just say that. They're safely in the tournament, but disappointing result for the Terrapins. But if Rutgers wins, they are into the championship game. They will not play an early game tomorrow. If Indiana wins that game tonight, those two teams will rematch tomorrow. All right? Those two teams will rematch tomorrow. So we'll wait and see what happens. And, of course, if that were to happen, the winner of that game would play the winner of Iowa-Michigan. So not as complicated as we maybe initially acted like it was. But, again, the double elimination does change things. And this is, Casey, this is a great question, and I should have asked Jared this question before we hung up the line. I really don't know. I don't know as far as the rules are concerned. How much is Iowa going to flirt with? I know Bauman played great tonight. Do you throw, how much does Schultz play? I thought Schultz really pitched well again late in this game. I wonder if they don't use him as a closer here tomorrow. Again, I don't know the rules as far as pitch counts, if there's a rule on how many games a guy can play, especially starters. Let me pull up Iowa's lineup here. Their pitching rotation, because I am curious. Just glancing down through I didn't think Nedved played great when he played. Was that against Purdue? I do wonder if Mazur is going to be able to play. If Mazur is able to play tomorrow. I know he was fighting off an injury. I thought Christopherson was okay when he pitched. It'll be interesting to see how Heller. This is probably a decision that was not already made, although maybe it was. But I think you kind of have to play this thing by ear. I'm sure those decisions are being made now, but they may not know until the morning. And I think all these guys, the idea is all these guys got to stay ready. But I do believe if you have any way to get a healthy Mazur back, you play him tomorrow. Unless I'm smoking something. I think unless I'm missing something where they can't play him. He hasn't played since Thursday. Didn't play great. I know he's fighting off an injury, but he's Big Ten pitcher of the year. Why not get him out there? But it's a great question. We'll just have to wait and see. But whoever's been on the mound, for the most part, has played well. Again, I'm not trying to pick on Christopherson or Nedved. Those guys were okay. But certainly I thought Bauman was great tonight. Butel, I thought, was better than maybe the stats reflect. I think he was hampered by some questionable calls. But overall, Iowa with a solid week of pitching, and I hope that continues tomorrow. All right, so tomorrow, again, we'll wait on the time because the Indiana-Rutgers game. Listen, if you're staying up for the game, please raise your hand. I want to hear. Is anybody in the chat, any of the 30 people who are on right now, is anybody going to stay up for this game? Darrell MVP brings up the fact that the Indiana-Rutgers first pitch is estimated to be at 12 a.m., which means we very well may end up at 4 a.m. or later. All right. Maybe it ends at 3:30, but I doubt you're going to get 3. So it's going to be a weird. I don't know how you do that and make those guys come back out there for a 1 p.m. First pitch on Sunday if Indiana wins. If you're Rutgers, you're just praying, hey, let's get out of here. I think there's a lot more pressure on Rutgers to win tonight than there was on Michigan to win tonight because of the weird time stuff. And remember, Indiana and Rutgers are both Eastern time zone teams. And Darrell MVP, you're right. Losing that first game to Penn State made things difficult, but Iowa taking it in stride. So again, Iowa, Michigan tomorrow. We'll see on the time. Sounds like either 9 or 1, but we'll wait and see what happens with Indiana Rutgers semifinals, game 2, because it is still semifinals, but it is game 2 of the semifinals. Iowa needs to win this one as well. And what a comeback this would be if Iowa can come all the way back and win this game. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Please share the show out on social media. Appreciate all the support. If you want to donate to the channel, you're welcome to do that as well. I'll put this banner up. There's a link in the description below. Of course, you can also donate by super chat, super thanks, super stickers. Hopefully everybody appreciates the coverage that I'm trying to provide here. I know Jared has been great. He is a fantastic baseball mind. For his age, he's one of the more fine-tuned guys as it relates to the game of baseball that I know. So appreciate him jumping on, and we'll get him back on tomorrow. So again, please share the show on social media. Donate to the channel below. Stay tuned. I will be back, folks. I will be back tomorrow. We're hoping it's for 2 games. Let's hope it's for a win over Michigan and then a win potentially over Rutgers. So appreciate everybody being here. We will talk to you tomorrow. Iowa into game 2 of the Big Ten tournament semifinals.